The grand hall of the Intergalactic Council buzzed with an energy that could only come from beings who had mastered the stars. Towering ceilings shimmered with holographic displays, showing constellations and galaxies far beyond what most species could dream of reaching. Representatives from countless alien races sat at their designated stations, their forms ranging from sleek insectoid creatures to hulking reptilian giants. Among them, humans were an oddity, a species so new to the galactic stage that they barely registered as a blip in the eyes of the council. Dr. Elena Vasquez adjusted the collar of her formal suit, her hands trembling slightly despite her best efforts to appear calm. She stood at the podium, flanked by two other human delegates, Ambassador James Carter and General Marcus Hawley. They were Earth's first official representatives to the Intergalactic Council. And while this moment was supposed to be one of triumph, it felt more like standing before a pack of predators. "Earth," began Varnock, the leader of the Zathras Empire, his voice dripping with disdain. His elongated head tilted downward as he sneered at the humans. "You dare to present yourselves here among civilizations that have walked among the stars for millennia. Your kind is nothing but apes playing with fire." A ripple of laughter spread through the chamber. Some delegates chuckled openly, while others wore smug expressions that made Elena's blood boil. She clenched her fists beneath the podium, forcing herself to maintain composure. This wasn't just about her, it was about every person back home counting on them to make humanity proud. Varnock continued, his tone mocking. "Your planet is drowning in its own filth, your atmosphere choked by your greed. Yet you come here asking for help? For resources? Pathetic." He turned to the rest of the council, spreading his arms dramatically. "Why should we waste our time and wealth on a species too foolish to save itself?" Elena took a deep breath, her mind racing. They had prepared for criticism. They knew humanity's reputation preceded them, but this level of ridicule was something no one had anticipated. Still, she couldn't let him get away with it. Not entirely. With respect, she began, her voice steady but firm. "Earth has faced challenges, yes, but we are not defined by our struggles. We are defined by how we rise above them. Humanity has achieved incredible feats: space exploration, medical breakthroughs, technological innovation, all within a fraction of the time it took many of your civilizations to reach similar milestones." Her words earned a few murmurs of acknowledgement, but Varnock cut her off before she could continue. "Feats?" he scoffed. "You call launching primitive rockets into orbit a feat? My children play with toys more advanced than your so-called innovations." More laughter erupted, louder this time. Ambassador Carter leaned closer to Elena, whispering urgently, "We need to pivot. Focus on why we're here. Climate aid. If we can secure that, maybe we can turn this around." Elena nodded, swallowing her pride. "Council members, we understand that humanity is young and inexperienced compared to your great civilizations. But we seek partnership, not charity. Our planet faces environmental collapse, and if left unchecked, it will destabilize the entire solar system. Surely, as stewards of the galaxy, you recognize the importance of preserving life no matter where it originates." For a brief moment, there was silence. A few delegates exchanged glances, perhaps considering her plea. But then Varnock stepped forward again, his expression cold and unyielding. "And why should the council concern itself with your failures? You are a liability, not an asset. Expanding your influence would only endanger others." The vote came quickly after that. Motion denied. Humanity's request for aid was rejected without debate. Worse still, the Council imposed strict treaties limiting Earth's expansion into space. No colonization of nearby planets. No development of advanced weaponry. Essentially, humanity was being told to stay in its place or face consequences. Back aboard their modest shuttle, The human delegation sat in stunned silence. The weight of their failure pressed down on them like a leaden sky. It wasn't until they returned to Earth that the full impact hit home. News of the Council's rejection spread rapidly. Social media exploded with outrage. Protests erupted in cities worldwide, with citizens chanting slogans like "Humanity First" and "No More Bowing Down." Governments scrambled to address the growing unrest, but the damage was done. Trust in the Council and faith in diplomacy was shattered. That night, under the cover of darkness, the United Nations Space Command convened an emergency meeting. Hidden deep within a secure bunker, leaders from across the globe gathered to discuss their next move. What they revealed shocked even the most hardened military officials. For decades, humanity had been quietly working on projects far beyond public knowledge. Alien technology salvaged from crashed ships and ancient ruins had been reverse engineered, leading to breakthroughs that defied belief. Experimental starships capable of faster-than-light travel. Energy weapons powered by quantum cores. Artificial intelligence systems designed to outthink any opponent. General Hawley stood at the head of the table, his face grim but determined. "They laughed at us," he said, his voice low but fierce. "They called us weak, primitive, but tonight we show them exactly who we are. Tonight, we remind the galaxy why you don't underestimate Earth." Plans were set into motion. Orbital defense platforms activated around the planet, bristling with plasma cannons and missile arrays. Fleets of sleek warships emerged from hidden bases beneath the moon's surface. Drones numbering in the thousands deployed, ready to swarm any enemy foolish enough to approach. At dawn, humanity broadcast a message to the galaxy. It was short, simple, and unapologetic. You ridiculed us. You underestimated us. Now watch as we change the rules. As the sun rose over Earth, the people united not in despair, but in defiance. The Council had made a grave mistake. And soon, the entire galaxy would know it. The Zathras Empire had always prided itself on its dominance. Its sprawling territory spanned dozens of star systems, and its warships were among the most feared in the galaxy. For centuries, the Empire's leaders had crushed rebellions, annexed weaker civilizations, and enforced their will without question. But now, something unprecedented was happening, something that sent shockwaves through the entire intergalactic council. It started in the dead of night, or what passed for night in space. A fleet of sleek silver ships materialized near the edge of the Zathras-controlled sector. Their design was unfamiliar, unlike anything the Council species had seen before. Sleek and angular, they moved with a precision that seemed almost mechanical. The ships didn't broadcast identification signals, nor did they respond to hails. They simply appeared, and then they struck. The first target was Outpost Delta 7, a key supply hub deep within Zathras territory. Before the outpost defenders could even scramble their fighters, beams of concentrated plasma erupted from the mysterious vessels, slicing through shields and hulls alike. Within minutes, the once imposing station was reduced to floating debris. The attackers didn't linger. As quickly as they had arrived, they vanished into the void. Panic spread across the Zathras command chain. Reports flooded in from other outposts and colonies. Similar attacks had occurred simultaneously at multiple locations. Entire squadrons of Zathras cruisers were wiped out before they could mount a counteroffensive. The enemy's tactics were brutal yet efficient, targeting weak points in the Empire's defenses with surgical accuracy. Back at Earth, the United Nations Space Command monitored the chaos unfolding in real time. Hidden beneath layers of encryption, their operatives had hacked into Zathras communication networks months earlier, mapping out vulnerabilities and gathering intelligence. Now, those efforts paid off in spectacular fashion. Humanity wasn't just fighting back, it was winning. General Marcus Hollis stood in the command center, watching holographic displays update with each new success. His jaw was set, his eyes sharp with focus. "This is only the beginning," he muttered under his breath. Beside him, Dr. Elena Vasquez studied the data streams, her expression a mix of awe and determination. "They're panicking," she said, pointing to a spike in encrypted transmissions from the Zathras leadership. They never expected this level of coordination, or this kind of firepower. Holly nodded grimly. "Good. Let them sweat. Let them realize exactly what they've unleashed." As the hours ticked by, humanity's forces continued their relentless assault. Orbital defense platforms around Earth launched barrages of missiles at any alien ships foolish enough to approach Sol System. Experimental FTL drives allowed Earth's fleets to strike deep behind enemy lines, appearing where they were least expected and disappearing before reinforcements could arrive. Meanwhile, swarms of AI-controlled drones overwhelmed larger enemy vessels, disabling them with pinpoint strikes against critical systems. But it wasn't just military might that gave humanity the upper hand. Decades of secret research had yielded technologies far beyond what the Council imagined possible. Quantum communication arrays enabled instant coordination between distant fleets, eliminating delays caused by light speed limitations. Advanced cloaking devices rendered some ships nearly invisible, allowing them to slip past enemy patrols undetected. And perhaps most importantly, artificial intelligence guided every decision, analyzing trillions of variables per second to ensure maximum efficiency. Word of these attacks reached the Intergalactic Council within hours. Emergency sessions were called, with representatives from every member species demanding answers. Varnock himself looked visibly shaken when he addressed the assembly, his usual arrogance replaced by barely contained fury. "Earth has betrayed us," he roared, slamming his fist onto the council table. "They have violated every treaty, attacked without provocation, and brought ruin to our borders. This cannot stand." Other delegates murmured in agreement, though not all shared Varnock's outrage. Some whispered among themselves, speculating about how humanity had managed such feats. Others expressed quiet admiration for Earth's audacity, even if they couldn't admit it openly. Meanwhile, humanity doubled down on its message. Across the galaxy, broadcasts transmitted in hundreds of languages declared Earth's intentions loud and clear. "You laughed at us. You ridiculed us. Now you see the truth. Humanity does not bow to tyranny. We do not cower before arrogance. If you seek war, we will give you war. But know this, we fight not just for ourselves, but for every species denied freedom by your greed." These words resonated deeply with many marginalized races who had long suffered under the Council's rule. Among them were the Krillians, a peaceful species subjugated by the Zathras Empire centuries ago. Forced into servitude, their culture had been all but erased, their voices silenced. When Earth extended an offer of sanctuary, promising protection and support, the Krillians responded with overwhelming gratitude. In secret meetings conducted via secure channels, Krillian leaders pledged their allegiance to humanity. In exchange for safe haven, they provided invaluable intelligence about Zathras operations, including details about troop movements and resource depots. This alliance marked a turning point. Not only did it strengthen Earth's position, but it also sowed discord among the Council's ranks. For the first time, cracks began to form in the seemingly unshakable foundation of galactic power. Yet despite these victories, the cost of conflict weighed heavily on Earth. Alien retaliation came swiftly and mercilessly. Cities around the globe endured devastating bombardments, their skies lit up by explosions as orbital strikes rained destruction from above. Civilian casualties mounted, and morale faltered. Protesters who had initially cheered for defiance now questioned whether the price was too high. President Marcus Halley addressed the nation during one such dark hour, his face broadcast on screens worldwide. Behind him, images of burning cities flickered ominously. "We knew this would not be easy," he began, his voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "We knew there would be sacrifices. But let me remind you why we fight. We fight because we refuse to live as slaves. We fight because we believe in a future where no species is oppressed, where no voice is silenced. And yes, we fight because we are human, and being human means standing up when others try to push us down." His words reignited a spark of hope in the hearts of billions. Across the planet, people rallied together, determined to endure whatever hardships lay ahead. Factories worked around the clock to produce weapons and supplies. Scientists labored tirelessly to refine existing technologies and develop new ones. Even children contributed, organizing fundraisers and writing letters to soldiers serving aboard distant ships. Amidst this turmoil, humanity unveiled its most ambitious project yet, Operation Eclipse. Designed as a masterstroke to cripple the Council's infrastructure, the plan involved simultaneous strikes on key targets across the galaxy. Supply lines would be severed, trade routes disrupted, and communication networks sabotaged. It was risky, perhaps even reckless, but necessary if Earth hoped to tip the balance in its favor. Preparations for Operation Eclipse required flawless execution. Fleets gathered at hidden rally points, their captains briefed on intricate maneuvers. Engineers fine-tuned engines and calibrated weapon systems, ensuring every ship was ready for battle. Back on Earth, civilians braced for the inevitable fallout, knowing that success depended on unity and resilience. Finally, the day arrived. As clocks struck midnight UTC, humanity launched its largest offensive to date. Ships surged forward, emerging from hyperspace at predetermined coordinates. Plasma cannons roared to life, tearing through enemy formations. Drones swarmed like locusts, overwhelming defenses and creating chaos. On planets and stations targeted for sabotage, special ops teams infiltrated secure facilities, planting explosives and uploading viruses into computer systems. One particularly daring mission took place aboard the Quasar Spire, a massive refueling station orbiting a gas giant in Zathras space. Disguised as routine maintenance personnel, a team of elite human operatives infiltrated the facility using stolen uniforms and forged credentials. Once inside, they planted charges in strategic locations, setting timers to detonate remotely. By the time alarms sounded, it was too late. The station erupted in a fiery inferno, cutting off vital resources for the Zathras fleet. News of these successes spread rapidly, inspiring both fear and admiration throughout the galaxy. Even some council members privately acknowledged that humanity had proven itself a force to be reckoned with. Yet Varnock remained defiant, vowing to crush Earth once and for all. For now, though, humanity held the advantage. With each passing day, more allies joined their cause, while enemies scrambled to regroup. The galaxy watched in awe as the once ridiculed apes from Sol system rewrote the rules of interstellar politics and showed the universe what happens when you push Earth too far. The galaxy was in chaos. Humanity's sudden rise from obscurity to a dominant force had sent shockwaves through every corner of the Intergalactic Council. Alien leaders who once dismissed Earth as insignificant now scrambled to respond, their arrogance replaced by fear and uncertainty. Emergency sessions became daily rituals, with heated debates raging over how to deal with this unexpected threat. Some called for immediate retaliation, while others urged caution. Wary of humanity's unpredictable tactics, Varnock, the leader of the Zathras Empire, paced furiously in his private chamber aboard the Council's flagship. His elongated head twitched with frustration as he reviewed reports of Earth's latest attacks. Outposts destroyed. Supply lines severed. Entire fleets wiped out in coordinated ambushes. It was as if humanity had anticipated every move they made and countered it before they even acted. They are not just fighting us, Varnock growled to his advisors. They are dismantling us piece by piece. His advisors shifted uncomfortably, avoiding his piercing gaze. One of them finally spoke up, his voice trembling. Perhaps we underestimated them. Their technology, it seems far beyond what we believed possible. Silence. Varnock snapped, slamming his fist onto the table. I will not tolerate excuses. Find me a solution or face the consequences yourselves. While the council deliberated and argued, humanity pressed its advantage. The United Nations Space Command orchestrated Operation Eclipse with ruthless precision. Sabotage missions struck at the heart of the council's infrastructure, crippling trade networks and disrupting communication channels. I controlled drones infiltrated secure systems, spreading viruses that paralyzed entire fleets. Meanwhile, Earth's warships patrolled newly liberated regions of space, ensuring no counterattacks could take hold. But humanity wasn't content to fight alone. Dr. Elena Vasquez spearheaded diplomatic efforts, reaching out to smaller, marginalized species who had long suffered under the Council's tyranny. Among these were the Krillians, whose plight had touched a nerve among Earth's people. When the first wave of Krillian refugees arrived on Earth, they were greeted with open arms. Cities opened shelters, schools welcomed their children, and hospitals treated the sick and wounded. For the first time in generations, the Krillians felt hope, and in return, the Krillians provided critical support. Their knowledge of Council operations proved invaluable, revealing hidden vulnerabilities that Earth's forces exploited to devastating effect. Other oppressed species began to follow suit, drawn by humanity's promise of equality and freedom. Slowly but surely, cracks widened within the Council's ranks, as more and more species questioned whether siding with the traditional powers was worth the cost. Yet despite these gains, the war took its toll on Earth. Alien retaliation grew fiercer, targeting civilian populations with brutal efficiency. Cities burned under orbital bombardments, skyscrapers reduced to rubble, and streets littered with debris. Hospitals overflowed with casualties, and food shortages plagued regions cut off by blockades. The skies above Earth glowed orange from constant missile strikes, a grim reminder of the price being paid. President Marcus Hollis stood before a crowd of survivors in New Chicago, one of the hardest-hit cities. Behind him, emergency workers sifted through the ruins of what had once been a bustling metropolis. His face was gaunt, his eyes shadowed with exhaustion, but his voice rang clear and strong. "We are paying a heavy price," he admitted, addressing the weary faces before him. "Our homes have been destroyed, our loved ones lost. But let me tell you something. We are still here. We are still standing. And as long as we stand together, no enemy can break us." The crowd erupted into cheers, their spirits lifted by his words. Across the planet, similar scenes played out. Communities banded together, sharing resources and supporting one another. Factories churned out weapons and supplies around the clock, while volunteers worked tirelessly to rebuild shattered neighborhoods. Even children contributed, organizing drives to collect food and medicine for those in need. Amidst this resilience, humanity unveiled another secret weapon, Project Genesis. Decades earlier, scientists had discovered traces of an ancient alien artifact buried deep beneath Antarctica's ice. Reverse engineering its technology had led to breakthroughs in energy generation and propulsion systems. Now, those advancements culminated in the creation of the Genesis Array, network of satellites capable of projecting immense energy shields around Earth and its allied territories. When activated, the Genesis Array transformed Earth's defensive capabilities overnight. Alien bombardments that once devastated cities now dissipated harmlessly against shimmering barriers of light. News of the array spread quickly, boosting morale across the globe. For the first time since the conflict began, humanity dared to believe victory might be within reach. On the galactic stage, however, tensions continued to escalate. The Council convened yet another emergency session, this time with representatives from nearly every member species in attendance. Debates raged over how to respond to humanity's defiance. Some advocated for total war, arguing that only overwhelming force could bring Earth back in line. Others warned against escalation, pointing out that humanity's ingenuity and determination made them a dangerous opponent. Varnock listened silently as arguments flew back and forth. When he finally rose to speak, his voice carried a tone of icy resolve. "Enough," he said, silencing the room. "We cannot afford division any longer. Humanity must be stopped, not just for our sake, but for the stability of the galaxy itself." He proposed a bold plan: unite all available forces under a single command and launch a massive assault on Sol System. Every ship, every soldier, every resource would be committed to crushing Earth once and for all. The proposal sparked heated debate, but ultimately, the Council voted in favor. Preparations began immediately, with fleets converging on near-Earth's borders. Back on Earth, intelligence operatives intercepted transmissions detailing the Council's plans. General Marcus Halley studied the data, his expression grim. "They're coming," he said simply, addressing his staff in the command center. "Everything we've done has led to this moment. If we fail now, there won't be a second chance." Dr. Elena Vasquez nodded, her mind racing. "Then we make sure we don't fail," she replied firmly. "We've faced impossible odds before, and we've won. This time will be no different." As the Council's armada mobilized, humanity prepared for what would likely be the most decisive battle in its history. Orbital defense platforms bristled with weapons, their crews working tirelessly to ensure every system functioned perfectly. Fleets of warships gathered in formation, ready to meet the enemy head-on. Civilians hunkered down in underground shelters, praying for survival. In the final hours before the assault, President Hawley addressed the world one last time. Standing in the ruins of New Chicago, he looked directly into the camera, his voice steady and resolute. "Tomorrow, we face the greatest test of our lives. But I have faith in each and every one of you. Together, we have shown the galaxy what it means to be human. Together, we will show them that we cannot be broken." As dawn broke over Earth, the skies darkened with the arrival of the Council's fleet. Thousands of ships filled the void, their weapons trained on the blue-green planet below. For a moment, there was silence, a tense pause before the storm. Then, the battle began. Plasma beams streaked across space, lighting up the darkness. Explosions rocked both sides as ships clashed in a deadly dance of destruction. Humanity fought with everything it had, pouring every ounce of courage and ingenuity into the fray. The fate of Earth, and perhaps the entire galaxy, hung in the balance. And somewhere amidst the chaos, a single thought echoed in the minds of billions. This is our moment. This is our fight. The battle for Sol System was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Thousands of ships clashed in a chaotic dance of destruction, their weapons lighting up the void with bursts of plasma and explosions that echoed across space. The Council's armada stretched as far as the eye could see, a massive wall of steel and firepower, intent on crushing Earth once and for all. But humanity wasn't backing down. Instead, they fought with a ferocity that shocked even their most hardened enemies. General Marcus Halla stood in the command center aboard the Odyssey, Earth's flagship. Holographic displays flickered around him, showing real-time updates from every corner of the battlefield. His jaw was clenched tight, his eyes scanning the data streams for any sign of weakness in the enemy's formation. Beside him, Dr. Elena Vasquez worked tirelessly at her console, coordinating fleet movements and analyzing tactical options. "They're overwhelming us," one officer reported, his voice strained. "Their numbers are too great." Hale didn't respond immediately. He knew the odds were stacked against them. The Council's forces outnumbered humanity's fleet by nearly 3-1. But numbers alone wouldn't decide this fight. Humanity had something its enemies didn't: ingenuity, determination, and the will to survive. "Activate the Genesis Array," Hale ordered, his voice calm but firm, "and prepare the drones for deployment." Moments later, the skies above Earth shimmered as the Genesis Array came online. A translucent energy shield enveloped the planet, deflecting incoming fire from the Council ships. Plasma beams that would have devastated cities dissipated harmlessly against the barrier, buying precious time for humanity's forces. At the same time, swarms of AI-controlled drones surged forward, targeting enemy vessels with pinpoint precision. Smaller and faster than traditional fighters, the drones overwhelmed larger ships, disabling engines and weapon systems before retreating to strike again. But even with these advantages, the battle raged on. Ships on both sides exploded in fiery blasts, sending debris spiraling into the void. Pilots screamed over comms as their vessels were torn apart, while others fought desperately to hold their ground. It was chaos, but within that chaos, humanity found opportunities. One such opportunity came when a squadron of elite human pilots launched a daring mission behind enemy lines. Disguised as debris from destroyed ships, their sleek fighters slipped past the Council's defenses and made their way toward Zalora Prime, the Council's seat of power. Their objective was clear: infiltrate the station and disable its central control systems. Leading the mission was Captain Rachel Kim, a veteran pilot known for her unshakable nerve. Her fighter darted through the wreckage of fallen ships, narrowly avoiding enemy fire as she approached the massive structure of Zalora Prime. The station loomed ahead, its surface bristling with turrets and defensive arrays. "This is insane," muttered Lieutenant Chun, flying wingman to Kim. "We'll never make it inside." "We don't have a choice," Kim replied sharply. "If we fail, Earth falls. Now stay close and keep your head down." With careful maneuvering, the team reached a maintenance hatch on the station's outer hull. Using specialized tools, they pried it open and slipped inside, their suits masking their presence from internal sensors. Once aboard, they moved silently through the labyrinthine corridors, guided by intel provided by Krillian allies who had once served aboard the station. Meanwhile, back in the main battle, the Odyssey led a desperate charge against the Council's flagship, a monstrous vessel commanded by Varnock himself. General Hale personally directed the assault, ordering waves of missiles and plasma cannons to hammer away at the enemy's shields. The flagship responded with devastating barrages of its own, forcing the Odyssey to weave and dodge through a storm of fire. "You think you can stop us, humans?" Varnock's voice crackled over the comms, laced with fury. "You are nothing but insects trying to sting a dragon." Hale ignored the taunt, focusing instead on the task at hand. "Target their engines," he ordered. "Bring them down." The Odyssey unleashed everything it had, its weapons pounding relentlessly at the flagship's rear thrusters. Shields flared and buckled under the assault, until finally, one hit found its mark. The flagship's engines sputtered and died, leaving the massive vessel drifting helplessly in space inside Zalora Prime. Captain Kim and her team reached the station's core. A squad of alien guards blocked their path, but the humans were ready. With swift, coordinated attacks, they neutralized the threat and breached the control room. There, they found rows of consoles and holographic displays, all humming with activity. "Start uploading the virus," Kim ordered, pulling a small device from her belt. "We need to shut this place down." As the virus spread through the system, Alarms blared throughout the station. Lights flickered, and automated defenses went offline. Simultaneously, Dr. Vasquez intercepted the station's communication channels, broadcasting a message directly to the council chamber. "This war ends now," she declared, her voice steady and commanding. "Your arrogance has brought you here, and your greed has blinded you to the truth. Humanity stands united, not just for ourselves, but for every species denied freedom by your tyranny." Her words reverberated through the council chamber, where delegates stared in stunned silence. On the main screen, footage played of humanity's actions across the galaxy, freeing oppressed species, dismantling corrupt regimes, and offering aid to those in need. For the first time, many council members saw Earth not as an enemy, but as a beacon of change. Varnock, however, refused to yield. Enraged by the breach of Xylar Prime, he rallied what remained of his forces for a final, desperate counterattack. Ordering his flagship's crew to repair the engines, he prepared to ram the Odyssey in a suicidal collision. "Sir, we can't take another hit like that," shouted an officer aboard the Odyssey. "We'll be destroyed." Hawley nodded grimly. "Then we'll make sure they don't get the chance." With seconds to spare, the Odyssey unleashed its last resort, a prototype weapon called Nova Cannon. Designed to unleash a concentrated burst of energy capable of vaporizing entire ships, the cannon charged with a low hum. When fired, it struck the flagship dead center, obliterating it in a blinding explosion. The loss of Varnock's flagship sent shockwaves through the Council's fleet. Morale plummeted as commanders scrambled to regroup, only to find themselves surrounded by humanity's forces. Slowly but surely, the tide turned. Council ships began surrendering, their crews unwilling to fight a losing battle. Back aboard Xylara Prime, Captain Kim and her team completed their mission. The station system shut down entirely, plunging the Council's operations into disarray. As they made their escape, Kim glanced back at the massive structure, now dark and silent. "It's done," she said quietly. "Let's go home." When news of the victory reached Earth, celebrations erupted across the globe. Cities lit up with fireworks, and crowds gathered in streets and squares, cheering wildly. Despite the devastation wrought by the war, humanity had proven itself stronger than anyone thought possible. President Hawley addressed the nation from the ruins of New Chicago, his voice filled with emotion. "Today, we stand as victors, not because we sought conquest, but because we refused to bow to oppression. Together, we have changed the course of history, and together we will build a brighter future for ourselves and for the galaxy." Yet even as humanity celebrated, questions lingered. What would become of the Intergalactic Council? How would the galaxy respond to Earth's rise? And most importantly, could peace truly replace the old order? For now, though, humanity allowed itself a moment of triumph. They had faced impossible odds and emerged victorious. And as they looked to the stars, they knew their journey was only beginning. The aftermath of the battle for Xylar Prime left the galaxy in a state of uneasy silence. The once mighty Intergalactic Council was fractured, its leaders scattered and discredited. Varnock's death had dealt a crushing blow to the Zathras Empire, leaving it vulnerable to internal strife and rebellion. Across the stars, oppressed species rose up against their former overlords, inspired by humanity's defiance and success. For the first time in centuries, the balance of power in the galaxy shifted, and Earth stood at the center of it all. Dr. Elena Vasquez walked through the corridors of Xylara Prime, now under humanity's control. The massive station hummed with activity as teams of engineers and diplomats worked tirelessly to restore its systems. Gone were the oppressive symbols of the old council, replaced by banners bearing Earth's emblem, alongside those of newly liberated species. It was a stark reminder that the galaxy was entering a new era, one defined not by domination, but by cooperation. Elena paused outside the council chamber, her mind racing with thoughts of what lay ahead. Inside, representatives from across the galaxy had gathered to discuss the future. No longer was this a meeting of elites dictating terms to weaker species. Instead, it was a forum where every voice mattered. Humanity had proposed a bold vision: the United Galactic Federation, an alliance built on equality and mutual respect. As she entered the chamber, Elena felt a wave of pride. The room buzzed with energy. Delegates from countless species exchanging ideas and forging connections. Some wore expressions of cautious optimism, while others radiated hope for the first time in generations. Even former enemies sat at the table, their animosity tempered by the realization that humanity's victory offered a chance for renewal. President Marcus Hawley stood at the podium, his presence commanding yet humble. "We gather here today not as conquerors, but as builders," he began, his voice resonating through the chamber. "For too long, the galaxy has been ruled by fear and greed. Too many have suffered under the weight of tyranny. But now, we have the opportunity to create something better, a federation where every species, no matter how small or weak, has a voice." His words earned nods of approval from many delegates, though some remained skeptical. A representative from the Threxian collective raised a hand, his insectoid features unreadable. "Your intentions are noble, President Hawley, but how can we trust you? You shattered treaties and waged war without hesitation. What assurance do we have that you will not impose your will upon us?" Hawley nodded, acknowledging the concern. "You're right to ask that question. Humanity made mistakes, and we paid dearly for them. But our goal has never been conquest, it has been freedom. We fought because we refused to live under oppression. And now, we offer the same opportunity to you. Together, we can ensure that no species is ever subjugated again." The Threxian hesitated, then lowered his hand. "Perhaps there is wisdom in your words. Time will tell if your actions match them." As discussions continued, humanity revealed another surprise. Evidence uncovered during the infiltration of Xylor Prime. Hidden deep within the Council's archives were records detailing centuries of corruption and exploitation. Species had been deliberately suppressed, their technology stolen, and their cultures erased to maintain the Council's dominance. Worst of all, humanity itself had been targeted, its growth stifled through covert operations designed to keep Earth weak and dependent. When these revelations were broadcast to the galaxy, outrage erupted. Even some former council members expressed shock and shame, realizing they had unknowingly participated in such atrocities. The Krillians, who had suffered the most under the old regime, spoke passionately about the need for change. "Humanity gave us back our dignity," said Zira, a Krillian elder. "They showed us that unity is stronger than fear. Let us honor their example by building a better future for everyone." Slowly but surely, support for the United Galactic Federation grew. Delegates drafted a charter outlining the principles of the new alliance: equal representation, shared resources, and protection for all species. Earth took its place as a founding member, earning respect not just for its military might, but for its vision of a fairer galaxy. Yet challenges remained. Not all species welcomed the idea of a united federation. Remnants of the old council plotted in secret, vowing to reclaim their lost power. Rogue factions launched sporadic attacks on human outposts, testing Earth's resolve. Meanwhile, rebuilding efforts on Earth required immense resources, straining the planet's already fragile economy. Despite these obstacles, humanity pressed forward. Factories churned out materials to repair damaged colonies, while scientists collaborated with alien counterparts to develop sustainable solutions for resource shortages. Education programs taught children about diplomacy and cooperation. ensuring the next generation would carry the torch of peace. One evening, as the sun set over Earth, Elena stood on a balcony overlooking the rebuilt city of New Chicago. Lights twinkled in the distance, a testament to humanity's resilience. Behind her, General Marcus Hawley joined her, his expression thoughtful. "We've come a long way," he said softly. "But I can't help wondering, will it last?" Elena smiled faintly. "Nothing lasts forever. But we've proven that even in the darkest moments, there's always a chance for light. As long as we remember why we fought and what we're fighting for, I believe it can." Hawley nodded, gazing out at the horizon. "You know, when this started, I thought we were just trying to survive. Now, I think we've done something bigger. Something worth remembering." In the weeks that followed, the United Galactic Federation officially came into being. Its flag, a circle of stars surrounding a single blue-green planet, symbolized unity and hope. Representatives from across the galaxy traveled to Earth for the inauguration ceremony, marking the beginning of a new chapter in galactic history. As fireworks lit up the night sky, humanity celebrated not just its triumph, but its ability to inspire change. They had faced ridicule, endured hardship, and risen above it all. And now, they stood ready to lead not through force, but through vision. Far away, in the shadows of uncharted space, remnants of the old council watched silently. Their hatred burned bright, a flicker of resistance waiting for the right moment to strike. But for now, humanity's light shone brighter than ever, guiding the galaxy toward a brighter tomorrow. And somewhere amidst the stars, a message echoed, carried by winds of change. Never underestimate Earth.